Hello, and welcome to Night Marathon 8. This year we are doing the Final Destination series. We've got Final Destination, Final Destination 2, FD3, The Final Destination, and Final Destination 5. These guys don't mess around with like subtitles. There's no curse of Final Destination or anything like that.
They don't care about showing their age.
Yeah. And thank you guys for voting for this on Twitter because I love these movies. This for the first time. I think I've seen every one of these movies.
Same here.
I have, yeah.
Brian has.
Some
Okay.
more than others.
This year we have Adam, we've got Jill, we've got Brian. Links to their stuff in the description. 2000s Final Destination. We don't even start in the 90s, guys. This is new. These are new movies. Oh. I miss like when they would spend money on horror movies.
Yeah.
You can tell Wardrobe did both their tie knots.
They're very small.
Hey.
That did really well.
Where's the guy who played Candyman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh,
Oh yeah.
that's awesome.
And it was
That guy seems to have a lot of inside information.
Yeah. The fact that he's working the morgue in their town is awesome.
Then you can just drop f***ing dead.
Oh.
Nobody saw that coming.
so effective. It just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. After this movie, it was everywhere.
It was, yeah.
Oh, that's probably what it was. I'm like, oh, she stepped in the road. She's done.
Yeah, but before this movie, you wouldn't have.
Wasn't.
Only Meet Joe Black did it first. Don't.
Don't pull it out.
Have a seat.
Spending some money.
I was just thinking that.
So who's next?
So good. So good.
I totally recommend this one. I think it's the best of the bunch.
All right. Final Destination 1. What did we think?
Solid entry.
Best of the bunch, in my opinion. I didn't want to preview the rest, but I don't know. I saw this when I was like 17, and it just doesn't. I don't have the same feeling for the rest of them that I do this one.
Sure.
I would say it's a pretty fun movie. It's the first time I've actually seen the whole thing from beginning to end, shockingly. It's a good horror movie all the way through.
And Rob has joined us.
I really liked it when I first saw it, like a million years ago.
Yeah.
So it didn't really translate for me
All right.
to this time period.
So here's a problem. You are almost anesthetized to horror at this point.
It's like the jalapeno for me.
Spoilers all day. Here we go. Would anyone like to synopsize this one?
Final Destination is about a group of students basically board a flight so they can go to France for about 10 days. Like a school trip.
Yeah.
While they are boarding, Devon Sawa, who is sort of like, I wouldn't say the ringleader of this group, but he's the one that the narrative focuses on.
Yeah.
Devon Sawa has a nightmare about there being an accident mid-flight where everybody dies.
Big explosion.
Probably not a graphic mid-air accident since Drop Zone. I would probably
What a deep cut.
massive leap.
Yeah, but what's better, Drop Zone or Terminal Velocity? I mean, like, of those...
Devon Sawa awakes from his nightmare and it just wants to get off the plane. He ends up causing a little bit of a brouhaha with Kurt Smith and it ends up getting them, a group of them kicked off the plane. The plane takes off and ends up exploding. Throughout the rest of the movie, the survivors of that flight are ceremoniously picked off one by one.
Yeah, by death.
Death utilizes whatever it can around them in order to pick them off.
Yeah, murder them viciously.
Right.
But in the most common way possible.
Yeah, well, it's like, it all looks like weird coincidences stacked upon each other. Like, at the end, like, the thing will roll off to knock these screws off the top to fall into the heat lamp. The newspaper comes and then...
Death is a big fan of Rube Goldberg.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's such a genius idea. Just the defining thing about the Final Destination movies. This is like the Death Trap series.
The teacher going down is probably
Right.
the best with the vodka bottle and the knife. The knife is amazing. That's
Yeah,
an
like,
amazing idea.
and when he's trying to reach for the knife, then the chair falls over and hits the knife in further. It's so good. And so this is 2000. Scream came out in 96.
Yeah.
So that post-Scream cycle was all just like groups of WB kids, slasher picking them off, right?
Yeah.
So we saw 1,000 of those. And then this thing shows up and it's like, guess what? You don't have to just watch kids walk around in the dark. You can have like fucking death chasing them through everything, conflicts between the characters. Like this movie moves like crazy.
Yeah.
And horror movies, more than most, can drag like hell. It's so rewatchable too. I come
Yeah,
back to this
agreed.
more often than other horror movies.
Agreed.
Love it. Final Destination 2, 2003. See, our characters are getting a little more. They're falling into the slasher sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good foreshadowing.
Good bounce. Good.
See,
There he goes. And this is why I'll never drive behind a logger truck.
Every death gets crazier than the last movie.
Yeah.
I love these movies get so much better with toying with you, you know?
Yeah. Nope.
Don't,
Nope.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stop. That looked awesome.
just when you thought you were
That was
safe.
awesome.
Voluntary.
I think that's...
I had a premonition that Oh.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Oh no!
Oh.
That was awesome.
But Alex and I cheated death not once but dozens of times.
No.
Almost alive just before they
Right when we're eating.
If she gives birth to a baby that would have died in that car
Life that was
crash,
not meant to be.
a
Okay.
brand new soul
They're
has
really
never
complicating
felt.
the mythology here.
Wow.
That would be good.
Death is not wasting time.
What do we think?
I thought it had some pretty cool death moments. Overall, it's not quite as good as the first one. I just think they do a horrible job with the exposition.
Yeah. Well, and it's sequelitis too. Who wants to synopsize this one?
High school kids road trip moment. Girl sees a car crash in her head.
The most amazing highway pileup ever committed to film.
If you see a truck with logs, just change lanes and go away. They escape death. I'm probably skipping ahead a little bit, but I think the important thing is that they start discovering the connections between the deaths in the first movie, help them skip death a year before, and
Yeah.
so now it's death trying to close up all the loose ends, which I really enjoy that theory behind.
Because they weren't on the plane in the first movie, they interacted with the world past when they were supposed to die. The people in this movie who had nothing to do with the first movie had happenstances in their lives where they should have died but didn't because those people survived. No matter which way we phrase it, it's just not gonna...
Yeah. And we also do get Allie Larder back, who locked herself up in an insane asylum to escape death, and
Yeah.
then comes back and helps these people try to survive for as long as they can.
I've been meaning to do this and I never ever remember to do it. Favorite death, first movie, favorite death.
Teacher.
Teacher.
That's easy.
For me too. Whenever I think of that first movie, I think of the bus hit.
That was gonna actually be mine when you first see it.
Yeah.
And just like the shock value of it is.
That's the only one that comes out of nowhere.
Look at the hanging in the bathtub though. That just so much. I don't know. To me, I just get so much more of a visceral, just like.
We're getting a nice cross section here.
Yeah.
Hanging in the bathtub.
You get
Do you
that
have one?
anxiety.
I
Yeah.
like the 180 sign. Just because it's so graphic.
That's cool.
Wow, we got a lot all over the board here. What about the second movie? The gnarliest is the log going through his windshield and his head coming out the back. That is the roughest death in the movie, I think.
The ending's pretty.
Yeah.
The blowing up of the barbecue?
Blowing up at the barbecue is really good.
The airbag in the face and it
Yeah.
hit her head back.
Yeah.
So
Hey, within
good.
that little tube, there was some brains in there and stuff, which is a nice touch.
And I do like barbed wire.
Barbed
Wire is good too. The farm in general, just like all three of those kills are
Once
pretty
the
solid.
farm happens, though, it goes really fast.
Yeah, you start going. She figures out that she can hopefully save everybody by dying herself and then being resuscitated. Final three?
Yes. Please.
Yes.
This is finally a realistic, like, explaining it scene. Like, what would you do? I would Google it. I've never been in a tanning bed. Has anybody ever been in a tanning bed?
Yeah.
We had a micro tanning phase in college. Just like a little bit. I wasn't gonna offer it up, but since it came up.
That's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Oh!
That is quite.
Baby, I just win!
That was good.
So is this the first time all of our survivors died?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Once.
You're more than
halfway through.
That is the craziest thing. I've only watched 3 movies today, and I'm already halfway through.
And I don't feel the length. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably did in some of those other.
3 movies in, you're usually still in pretty good standing. FD3, the big accident is a roller coaster this time. So CG looking. You have to keep reminding yourself to just kind of buy into it. Who would like to recap?
So the gang gets together and goes on a roller coaster ride where the female lead, what's her name from Scott Pilgrim,
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
has a premonition and just so happens to discover that pictures that she took before the actual ride are the key to determining who is going to die and how.
Unlike the last couple, this has no correlation to the things that happened before, but they do know about Flight 180. They never say anything about the highway, I don't think.
No.
So it's just back to the original concept. Right.
But first time we lose all of our survivors in the movie.
How do you think it stacks up compared to the other two?
I feel like this is like when we are full on into slasher sequel territory. Give me some stock characters. Try to figure out the coolest ways we can get to kill them. How does it stack up for you guys?
As with the second one, it just kind of struggles with like the narrative portion of it, where I just kind of like I just found myself bored through these moments as they're just like figuring them out, just because like either the writing's not like optimal.
That's my problem with this
Yeah.
movie. The characters in this movie are so boring.
Yeah.
Those 2 would-be sorority girls. There's no way either one of them believed what they were doing for a second. Their death was pretty cool.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? You know how like Menachem, Globan, Globus, like those 2 guys from Cannon?
Yeah.
Those guys trying to make this movie like today, using that same mindset. 'Cause it's like they think they know who American teenagers are, and they write this ridiculous fucking thing that's so cliche.
Right. That's the thing, the cliche thing. They all conform to this one avenue that they have to travel the whole movie. So as soon as you've seen one scene of it, every other scene you feel like I've seen this before.
The dialogue is just terrible.
The distressing thing is that this was written by the same guys who wrote the first movie, minus Jeffrey Reddick, who came up with the original concept. So they knew how to do it 5 years before this movie.
We're in the part 3 of a franchise,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't think from here on out we should be expecting that.
No. And I do this all the time with the night marathons. Like, people after a certain point are like, well, but what were we expecting?
I would say as far as the deaths go, definitely like delivered on that front, but pretty much that front alone.
See, I only think like the hardware store and the ending.
The nail gun
Yeah, the
is
nail gun.
just the coolest.
Top 3 in this series so far.
Did anybody like this one more than either of the other 2?
I don't know why I prefer
But
the
did you
third one
prefer-
to the second
you do?
one.
You prefer
I
this
still
to the
do,
second
even
one?
after this viewing.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the mechanics of it. The premonition and
Mm-hmm.
the roadmap that leads to this is how it's
That's
going
the
to
whole
happen.
movie, though.
Well, how about Saw? There is a setup, and you kind of know what you're getting into, but each movie is very different. The House, which was what Saw 2?
That was the best
Saw
one.
two.
I love that
was
one.
best.
That's
Saw 2 is
great.
the
But it was
best.
Yeah.
nothing like Saw 1. It was more of a game.
So Saw 2 built on the original premise in a really inventive way, and
Very
then
different,
3
though.
through 8 tried to replicate Saw's 2
Two,
success.
right.
We completely neglected to mention the engine fan blade
Oh.
decapitation.
I was gonna say
ending.
that was
was
one of
good.
my favorites.
That was
That was good.
the
Awesome.
best. That's a great
Yeah, I think this was probably the one that felt the longest.
Shall we on to 4?
Yes.
I think this one is notoriously the worst.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that. I remember seeing this one once and being like, yeah, I wasn't.
This is a problem with CG in 3D movies. Once you get 2D'd, it looks a little rough.
So they look like knives, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice!
I think that you're gonna be next.
In their defense, there's no way to play this scene as written.
There's no way to elevate the material.
No. Awesome.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh good, oh good.
I'm so sorry, you guys. It's only 55 minutes in, guys.
That's it?
We have at least another half hour.
Wow.
Now just take off the shoes.
Take your shoe off.
Oh.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
What is happening, you guys?
Bye.
I like it. The Final Destination.
I'm glad it was not the final destination.
Yeah, I'm glad we got one more out of this because this one, if they had ended on this, I would have been kind of disappointed.
The thing that this movie really had going for it was it picked great locations.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, one of the people who survived would be in a salon, and you'd be like, ho. Think of the things that could happen in a salon. And they'd like play with a couple of them.
Yeah.
They finally did an escalator, which was awesome.
And that was actually a pretty decent death.
Do you want to do the plot of this one?
They start by going to a professional car race. We see a car drive through some oil and skid, and then he starts to have this premonition where this car ends up flipping and causing a mass car accident, which then goes straight into the audience.
Yeah.
Which is very much into the audience because it's 3D.
Yeah.
So pieces are flying everywhere.
Everything's very much into the audience.
Yes. Ended up screaming after his premonition. He ended up causing a fight.
Same deal.
They were dragged out. Everything just sort of explodes.
Basically, it's a Final Destination movie.
Yeah.
No new elements to the formula. Fewer characters to be interested in.
A lot less development between them two.
Our character became obsessed with the fact that he had a premonition. There was no significance or thematic development on destiny or any of that stuff. It was all the way he was just like, here are the mechanics of my premonition. And they didn't even all get together. In the previous movies, all the survivors get together and kind of worry with each other and express their own problems and points of view. This time we pop over to the salon and see her get a rock and a ride from a lawnmower. We're a little worn out on Final Destination, the premise, at this point, and they need to do something with it other than just cool deaths. Everything looks so computer generated.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It was deplorable.
These movies look cheaper and cheaper. Just you can tell too, like when her leg went into the gears of the escalator, that was a dummy leg.
Right.
And it looked so much better. Some of the blood was CG, but it looked so much better than like a lot of the CG stuff. I don't know what they're gonna do in 5. I don't remember.
The only thing I remember about part 5 is the end of the movie.
Favorite death of this one?
Mechanic.
Mechanic through the fence.
The tire that just lopped off her head.
Let's see what FD5 does. You guys ready?
Yeah, I'm totally ready for
All
it.
right, 2011. Oh no!
Oh!
Good 3D.
Oh!
Oh, the eye!
And we have actually been a while since we've had those like collective like gasps in this room.
Yeah. Hey.
There he is.
Rob,
What's up?
is he way too slow in the kitchen?
A little bit, yeah. Especially with that full of a restaurant. But they have a really big line, actually. No. No. Yeah, this
That's awful.
No.
so
No.
good.
Oh.
It's so good.
That was bad. That was bad.
Yum, yum, dim sum.
Oh my God.
He's the new racist.
Yeah, rolling into racism is the late Final Destination motif.
Oh.
Don't do that. Just call 911.
Oh.
Yeah, get out of there. What are you doing?
Oh, you gotta do.
No, no. That's real.
Relax.
Yeah. Easy for you to say, sir.
And that was a good eye.
Bastards. Oh, that doesn't seem okay. Oh, Roy. Oh, Roy. Oh, wow.
Cool.
You guys are having so much more fun than the last movie.
Yeah. Agreed.
Oh.
Back into the airplane.
Oh no.
Oh.
You remember the ending? She was wearing flare pants in what year?
2011.
Or was it 1999?
Yeah.
Oh!
This movie is a period piece.
There it is. They're on the airplane. Good job. Good job.
We fell for it. Hook, line. We were commenting on all of the.
What's all the flip phones in there? Yeah.
That was the most vocal we've been throughout the entire night marathon, and I have to say that was probably the most fun that I've had watching all five.
It was me.
And we are now joined by Eliza. We begin people leaving for a company retreat. They work at a paper company. This is basically The Office meets Final Destination.
Yeah.
And they all get on a bus to go on a retreat. They go over a really tall suspension bridge that is having some construction done. The bridge starts to collapse. He sees the vision of it, obviously. 7 people get off. They start getting picked off in the most intense sequences of the entire series.
Yeah.
Here's the twist this time. When Tony Todd shows up, he's like, okay, here's the deal. You have to take someone's life to get more life. You get their life if you basically transfer yours. It's like a whole thing, like a Stephen King secondary bad guy situation. At the very end, the 2 survivors, the lucky couple who've been talking the entire movie about going to Paris, finally get on their plane to go to Paris. And it's the first movie! And the plane blows up. So good. How did we feel about this one, guys?
Absolutely my favorite. I think it was my favorite.
It was a great time.
It was my favorite too, Rob.
Of the whole day?
Of the whole day.
It was unprecedented. You never go out on a night marathon on a high like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
no.
at all.
After
That was such a good twist.
watching a whole franchise, you don't go out like this.
It actually
Agreed.
got applause from us. I can't remember the last time that happened.
That didn't happen.
But once again, part of the beauty of this one is that the characters had lives outside of the premonition. And when that's all people focus on, that and the deaths, it gets real boring real fast.
To watch all 5, this is probably like one of the best series to sit through the entirety of.
Absolutely, dude. Well, first of all, it's only 5 movies. This was a short day. Favorite death? First of all, of this movie.
Okay.
Gymnast.
Gymnast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that I was seeing new stuff in this, and that was
The
definitely
screw
something I
was
had
really
seen.
tense.
The screw was,
A screw lands on the balance beam and she's on. It's like.
Probably the most
Hook was my
tension-riddled
favorite,
one.
though.
And they all were
Which
good.
one?
The hook to
Roy?
the head.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
reveal of it was fun.
I would probably go with the gymnast too.
This is the only one where we've pretty much had a consensus.
Yeah. Unlike the other movies where they bring you to a tense place and don't really capitalize on it, here they would slowly take you through all the possibilities and then pay it off in the room. Whole franchise. Favorite movie?
It's like split for me between 1 and 5.
Yeah, 1 and 5.
I'll say 5. They turned it so well.
They capitalized the most on every element of this concept.
They did exactly what I wanted them to do.
If you didn't have one.
No, exactly. Like, that's the problem with the whole franchise. Everyone always wants to go back to the first, even though sometimes the ideas that are set up in the first aren't completely capitalized upon until later entries.
Yeah.
It's like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Great first movie. Nightmare 3 actually
blew it
promises.
out of the fucking water.
It delivers on the promise of the premise.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, I don't know that I would be able to say until rewatching it. Like, if you already know what happens,
Yeah.
like, how much does it live up to its own hype?
I mean, they essentially accomplished everything I wanted. Get rid of all of the crap that was slowing down 4 and 3.
I have a hardcore allegiance to the first one.
Yeah.
I always will. If I was to sit down and rewatch another one right now, it'd be Final 5. The deaths aren't as tense in Final 1.
You know, you convinced me at Final 5. That's probably my favorite.
I still love the beginning of 2.
The highway scene is insane.
Before we watched 5, I would have said 1 hands down. But after having watched 5 again,
I think our reactions to it.
yeah, and our reactions to it, it's just like, man, there really is something about that 5th movie that capitalizes on a lot of that they just didn't. The nightmare analogy is like spot on.
Your
It's
favorite
like,
nightmare is Nightmare 3.
That's my. I
Dream
think that's
Warriors all the
most
way, man.
Freddie
Mine too, actually.
favorites, yeah.
Guys, so much fun. Thank you so much. Of the night marathons, I have to apologize. I made a mistake last year. I said that the Chucky franchise was at the bottom of the list because of Seed of Chucky. That is still the worst movie in all of the franchises. There's no way that Hellraiser isn't the worst franchise.
It was
Yeah.
awful.
That was the
It was
worst.
awful.
This franchise is an easy one to sit through.
Yeah.
5 movies,
Oh, yeah.
only one truly bad entry. My rankings still go as such. Most fun to sit through an entire franchise. Nightmare, Halloween, Final Destination, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, Chucky, Hellraiser. Am I missing anyone? Saw goes above Chucky.
Saw was rough.
Saw became rough. Saw started so strong.
Yeah, really strong and really terrible.
Throughout the day, Saw delivers a bunch of
Yeah,
it does.
the
that's true.
entire time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, and happy Halloween.